Hey everybody, welcome to Beer City Board Games. This week we are taking a look at Ark Nova. Okay, let's really quickly go over how Ark Nova is played. Players are going to start off each with their own zoo maps. Over the course of the game, they're going to be filling this map with enclosures and animals to attract tourists and advance up the appeal track. They're often going to be balancing this with completing conservation projects, which are going to allow them to advance their position on the conservation track. This is going to be done by using one of 5 action cards located beneath the player board. The strength of each card is determined by its location. A card in the first position will have the weakest action, and a card in the 5th position will have the strongest action. Players can also upgrade their cards by flipping them over to gain access to more efficient actions. These actions are going to include cards, building, animals, association, and sponsors. Once a player has taken their chosen action, they will then slide that card down to the number 1 slot, sliding the rest of the cards up to fill in the spaces, making the chosen action a little weaker and increasing the strength of the actions that we're moving up. Right, so for the cards action, this is going to allow you to draw cards from the deck and keep a certain number depending on the strength of the card when it's played. These cards are all going to come from this deck here that sits on the main board. These cards are going to be either animal cards, which are going to give you appeal and take up enclosures within your park, or they are going to be sponsor cards, which are going to give you some special benefits and potentially some end of game scoring opportunities. The build action is going to allow you to place an enclosure into your park. It will come into the park on its empty side, and then once you place an animal in that enclosure by playing an animal card down, you'll flip that enclosure over to its occupied side. Some animals can be placed in special enclosures, such as the reptile house or the petting zoo, and these will allow multiple animals to be placed into one enclosure tile. There are some building restrictions when it comes to building tiles. For example, building tiles cannot be placed on rock spaces, and some spaces are going to require that the building card be flipped over to the level 2 side before they can be placed there. There are also bonus spaces that will give you additional benefits if you build over those spaces. The animals action will allow you to play a certain number of cards, animal cards, from your hand into your zoo, depending on the power of the location where the card is played from. Animal cards, again, are going to often give appeal to your park, which is this ticket symbol down here at the bottom, and often will also give some kind of ongoing benefit throughout the course of the game. Some animal cards are also going to have symbol requirements off to the side. So in order to play this Western Green Mamba, for example, I would need to already have in my park a reptile symbol and an Africa symbol. When you place that animal into your park, you will flip over one of your enclosures to its occupied side, or if it is an animal that can be placed in a special enclosure, you'll place down one of your colored cubes into that enclosure, signifying that that animal is occupying that space. The sponsor action will allow players to play one sponsor card from your hand, depending on the level of the card when it is played. Sponsor cards are going to give different benefits. For example, this one here says each time an herbivore icon is played into any zoo, you gain $3. So each one is going to have a cost up here in the corner. That is the level at which your sponsor card must be before you are able to play that sponsor card. And the final card is the association action card. This is going to allow you to perform one association action with a maximum value based on where the card is played from. This adds a worker placement element to the game where you will take one of your available association workers and place them out onto the association board. For example, if a player plays their association card from the number 2 slot, they can send their association worker to this space in order to gain 2 reputation. Reputation will move their marker up on the reputation track, giving them access to more cards that they can take from the offer, and also providing some benefits when they reach certain spaces. Playing the association card from the number 3 slot will give players access to the partner zoos. Each zoo provides a symbol necessary to place certain animals in your zoo. When played from the 4th position, the association action will allow players to take one partner university. Each one of these university tokens is going to provide certain benefits, such as increasing your hand size, increasing your reputation, or giving you additional research icons. And finally, playing the card from the 5th slot will allow players to complete a conservation project. Some conservation projects are played out at the beginning of the game. Others may be placed out as the game progresses. There are going to be multiple different ways to complete these conservation projects. Some just require that you have a certain number or type of symbol within your zoo. Some of them will actually require that you release an animal into the wild. Releasing an animal requires you to discard that animal's card and flip its enclosure back to its empty side, and then you can place one of your tokens on that card. More than one player may use an action space on the association board, and one player may use an action space multiple times, provided that the second time they visit a space, they send 2 workers. If a player already has 3 workers in that space, they cannot visit that space again this round. If a player has upgraded their association card to the level 2 side, that will give them the ability to make a donation to an animal welfare project. Once per turn, when they take an association action, they can place one of their markers on one of these spaces, paying the appropriate amount and gaining 1 conservation point. Multiple actions throughout the game, like the sponsors card, will cause players to move the break token forward on the break track. When the token reaches the final space on the break track, there's going to be a brief upkeep phase. Players will start by checking their hand limit. They must discard down to 3 cards, or if they have the appropriate university partnership, they will discard down to 5 cards. Then they will discard any tokens that have been placed on any of their cards. They will refill the spaces on the association board and retrieve any association workers. Then they'll discard the cards from spaces 1 and 2 and move the rest of the cards down, drawing new ones to fill in the spaces 5 and 6. And finally, players will take income based on where they are on the appeal track. So in this situation here, yellow would gain $17, blue would gain $19, plus any additional income from kiosks that have been built within your park. Once income has been taken, the break token is moved back to the beginning of the track, and players will continue until the game end is triggered. The end of the game is triggered when one player's conservation track token and appeal token are in the same space as each other, or once one has passed the other. At that point, all players will get 1 additional turn, and then they move on to final scoring. Once the final turn has been taken, any end of game scoring opportunities will be tallied, such as those found at the bottom of these sponsor cards, usually indicated by an hourglass symbol. Once all final points have been tallied, the player whose tokens have passed each other by the farthest amount is the winner. Remember that this is a very high-level overview. There's a lot of other things going on in this big, heavy, crunchy Euro game, but that should be enough to kind of give you at least an idea of how the game plays. All right, so what did I think of Ark Nova? Well, I'm going to start off with a few negatives. Mainly, component-wise, the zoo maps are pretty thin. They're basically just paperboard. That's kind of a minor thing. Everything else is pretty standard. Probably my biggest critique of the game is that it is pretty long, especially at more than 2 players. I don't think I probably won't really play this game at more than 2 players any more than that, and it does tend to go a little long. And with it going long like that, at some point, those association actions that you can take, those are going to feel a little bit less impactful as the game goes on. At some point, you're probably going to have all of your partnership zoos, university tokens, all of those kind of things. So that action seems to get a little bit less impactful, like I said, as the game goes on. But with all that being said, I really like this game. I think this is a great theme. I still like the nature theme. I know we've had a lot of them lately, but this is one thing that I'm not getting tired of. I love the idea of trying to balance out that profitability on the appeal track with the conservation track. It's got that kind of dual score track thing, kind of like Rajas of the Ganges has, where you have one track going one way around the board and the other track going the other way, and you need to get those 2 tokens to meet or pass each other. That's a really great scoring mechanism that I really liked in Rajas. I really like it here. And thematically, it kind of makes sense, right? As a zoo, you're going to be trying to remain profitable, but at the same time completing conservation projects to actually help these animals out. Love that idea. Um, I really like the card action selection mechanism. This is something that I really liked back when I played Civilization: A New Dawn. I think this game does it better, or at least I enjoy the game around the mechanism a little bit more with Ark Nova than I did in Civilization. Trying to manage how those cards increase in power. Maybe you can't really spam one particular card to use that ability over and over again, because it's not going to increase in power to give you access to some of that bigger and better stuff that you're probably going to need. Every time I've played this game, my zoo has felt different, depending on the cards that I get, the conservation projects that come out. I'm going to be focusing on different things. Everybody can kind of focus on something different and still do well. With 128 animal cards, 64 sponsor cards, 12 base conservation cards, and 20 additional conservation cards that come in that main deck, you're almost always going to be playing a slightly different game each time you play it. Plus, different bonus tiles may come out, different end-of-game scoring cards that you may get at the beginning of the game. There's a lot of replayability here. I also really like the fact that some of the more aggressive cards give you an option for a less aggressive play style at the bottom of them, depending on who you're playing with. For example, like when my wife and I play, we don't tend to play in a super aggressive play style. With this game, you have that option. You don't have to sort through the cards and take them all out. It just has an option at the bottom of any of their more aggressive cards that says, if you don't want to play this style, do this instead. I love that. I kind of wish more games would do something like that. I think that's a really cool way to handle it. It doesn't take any more time with setup. It just means that as we're playing, hey, I don't want to use this Venom token on you. We're just going to play, a little bit more friendly style. All right, so let's talk scores. Overall, 4 components in art. Again, everything is good. The paper maps, I'm not a huge fan of. I'm also not a big fan of photography. I tend to prefer seeing artwork in games rather than photography. Those things are pretty minor, but it did knock it down a couple of pegs. I gave it a 3 for components and art. Mechanisms, I gave it a 5. Like I said, I love this card action selection mechanism. I'm hoping to see it in more games, but I really enjoy that puzzle of trying to figure out how do I get this card where I need it so that I can take the action I need when I need to take it. Discovery, again, tons of replayability here with all of the different cards that may come out, all the different conservation projects, start of game, scoring opportunity, cards that you may draw. It's going to push you in a different direction each time. So Discovery, I rated it a 5. And then experience overall, again, 5. I love this game. It's one of the higher rated games in my collection for me. Overall, as far as Board Game Geek ratings go, I gave this one a 9. I'm really looking forward to the expansions that are on their way. Can't wait to try those out, and I'm definitely planning on keeping this one on the shelf. So that's it for Ark Nova, and until next time, let's get another round for the table. Hey everybody, don't forget to like and comment on this video. If you found value in this video at all, it would mean a lot to us if you consider subscribing to the channel as well. Don't forget to click the notification button so you'll know when we put out a new video. Cheers!